Welcome to the Mike Litton Experience Podcast. Mike has over 31 years experience in real estate, finance, and investing. He's passionate about being a father, a teacher, a realtor, an investor, and a leader. Everyone has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. And now, introducing the host of the Mike Litton Experience, Mike Litton.
So what can you expect from the Mike Litton Experience? You can expect stories that will inspire, motivate, advice that will sharpen your focus, and expert information on real estate, finance, and market conditions.
Help desk to being a service technician to being a consultant. So I would do more project-based tasks, and I'd be flying. Like I'd go to Winnipeg, or I'd go to Salt Lake City, or I'd go to Pittsburgh, and I would, work with a customer for a week or 2 weeks or a month on some project to fix their infrastructure or whatever the case may be.
There's the travel thing kicking in.
Yeah, I did a lot of that.
That's cool.
Racked up the air miles for sure.
Absolutely. So in an industry where people bounce around a lot from company to company, and you know what I'm talking about, right?
Totally, yeah.
You've been in the same place for almost 20 years. What's the magic key? What's the thing that's kept you with one company all this time?
Well, I think my journey's not really typical. So help desk, consultant, system engineer, consultant, senior consultant. I moved to being an architect, then a solution architect. Then I managed the solution architect team. Then I managed the sales team. Then I started the marketing for the business, and I ran the sales and marketing team. And at that point in time, me and one of my colleagues were kind of provided or presented the opportunity to actually purchase the business.
Right.
And so we did. That was maybe 2014.
Okay.
And so him and I are business partners, and we've now had the opportunity. I went and from being the running sales and marketing, we hired a professional sales leader. I kind of moved into being CTO, and now I have a whole bunch of other things that kind of keep me going. So to start right before being an owner, I'd say what kept me there was, again, the alignment with both allowing me to grow professionally and giving me freedom, a lot of freedom into how I spent my time and who I worked with. And then obviously now as in a different seat as a shareholder or owner, it's been about, again, trying to push the team and help others achieve success.
Yeah, and it's different, right? It's different working for a company and owning the company.
That's right.
Completely, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a completely different discipline. But it sounds like that if I'm understanding this correctly, it sounds like you just kept moving up and you kept moving into positions that worked with your flexibility, your need for flexibility, and your love of travel and that kind of thing, right? So it sounded like you just kind of they obviously wanted to keep you, but they moved you into all these other areas. So you ended up with an entirely sort of a global experience, right? With the company, to where almost all encompassing kind of thing, to where when it was time for you to have the opportunity to buy it, you really were in a place where it sounds like you kind of love the company.
Yeah, and I think it's the people too, right?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's who you work with. You spend more time with your coworkers than anyone, right? Statistically. And yeah, we had a really great group of people. It was relatively smallish then. I think when we took over, it was perhaps just shy of 40 employees, and yeah, now we're pushing 200. So it's been quite the journey.
Congratulations. So you take over in 2014. And it sounds like you've succeeded at a very high level. What's the secret to that success?
Someone shared this with me, and I think it's really stuck from a philosophy perspective. And it's this notion of keep, get, grow, and how that can be applied to both employees and to customers.
Okay.
And so we've actually, in some instances, when I hire folks, I'll actually ask them, I'll draw a 3x2 grid, right? So
Okay.
6 boxes. And on the horizon, it'll be customers and employees.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the vertical, right? And on the columns, it'll be keep, get, grow. So
Okay.
the 6 boxes. I say, draw an X on the most important box. If you'd only pick one, which box would be the most important box to put a checkbox in, right?
Right.
And for us, the philosophy is grow employees.
Mm-hmm.
That's the box that gets the X, because the idea being that if we help employees grow, they're going to stay, right? So we will
Sure.
keep our employees. If we help our employees grow, they will help us attract new employees, right?
Yeah,
They're going to be a
true.
referral magnet. If we have retained, growing, and employees, they're going to make our customers happy. We're going to keep our customers. And it kind of creates that whole cycle that I think is very synergistic. So I think philosophically, that's how we've tried to apply things and to really build a culture and try and maintain that culture as we grow, which is, obviously not easy, but to make sure that our culture is intact and that that whole philosophy comes through.
Right. Well, it sounds like you've done it the right way. And yeah, I totally agree. I mean, if you, and it sounds like they did that with you as you were an employee with the company, right? As
Right.
you continued on that path, they continued to grow, to help you grow. And they continued, it sounds like, to invest in you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of the reason why you stayed as long as you did and ultimately had an opportunity to buy the company.
100%. Yeah. And I'm fortunate. I'm extremely lucky. I count myself as like just all of the opportunities that I think that I've had
Yeah.
in my life, and kind of all of the moments of chance or
Mhm.
coincidence kind of led to certain moments. But yeah, I think how the company treated or helped me to grow and helped me
Yeah.
to be the person I am today certainly helped me stay in a role, because yeah, I had many opportunities to go work for larger businesses,
Oh, sure.
make more money. I had many of those opportunities, but I felt that what I had here was important. It was special, and it suited me. I had a lot of time at both BMO and GE working for large, multi-100,000 employee organizations where, I won't say you're just a number, right? But to a certain extent, you kind of are just a number, right? You're
Mhm.
part of a machine that's working, and it's hard at times to see the impact you make,
Yeah.
because you're part of a team that's part of a team that's part of a team that's driving a small,
Right.
minuscule element. And so your work, I find, at least for me and what really drives me, didn't find it has as much meaning as here, where I can directly correlate action to result and action to impact. And
Well, and
yeah.
I've interviewed a lot of people in tech, right?
Mhm.
And they're always getting job offers. They're always, I mean, headhunters are ringing them like crazy because let's be honest, tech is growing and the
Yeah.
talent that's out there is a pretty shallow pool, unfortunately, right? And so they're constantly having to, and these other companies, honestly, Jamie, these other companies don't believe what you believe, what your company believes. They don't grow their employees. They just go out and try and get more, right?
Mhm.
And I mean, some of some of the offers that are out there are just incredible. And
Yeah.
people jump at them because they're at a place where they don't feel fulfilled like you did. So let me ask you this. When they approached you in 2014 to buy the company, how did that make you feel?
I've never been asked that before. I, the first thing was probably lucky, fortunate, right, to be in the position,
Yeah.
and to, also both from my upbringing, because I mean, you have to go to banks and you have to borrow
Yeah.
money and take a lot of
Yeah.
risks. And I had to talk with my wife and be like, okay, if we do this, if it goes well, okay, great. But if it doesn't, here's the
Right.
risk, right? We have our house, we have like, and so uh, it certainly gets you thinking about things in a way that you've never had to before, right? Whenever
Amen.
you when you
Isn't
have a
that the
job,
truth?
things are just
Yeah.
secure, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say immediately it was like, oh, interesting. And then it was like, this is scary.
Yeah.
This is unlike anything that I've done before.
Yeah.
And it's a lot more question marks, a lot more questions than answers, right?
Yeah. Can I ask you this?
Mm,
Did you feel more appreciated than you did at the moment that they offered to sell you the company?
probably not. Yeah. I think, again, the opportunity that we had was time based. And yeah, it was definitely because at that point in time, I wasn't even on the executive team for the business. So,
They could have picked
uh,
anybody, bud.
yeah, it
I'm
again,
serious. They could have picked anybody. And I've owned corporations and I've owned them for decades. And
mhm,
the idea of selling your baby, let's be honest, it's like having a child. Okay.
yep,
The idea of selling that to somebody, you're going to be very, 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 very picky about who you choose. Okay. So being on the other side of it, being somebody who owned corporations and picked somebody to buy them, right?
mhm.
I can tell you there's no greater honor from this side of it's what I'm saying, right?
I agree. I mean, I totally agree. Founder syndrome is to a certain extent real, and it's interesting
Yeah.
from my perspective because we have ProServe IT, which is a company that Eric and myself had the opportunity to kind of lead.
Mhm.
But since then, we've actually spun off. We have another organization that we started, Line Zero. We
Mhm.
began it about 5 years ago, and that's growing at a decent clip now too. It's of a size so that's not insignificant, and it's interesting the differences of, okay, this was kind of created
Mhm.
and not the other one, and it's not lesser or more, it's just different,
Different.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's different.
Mhm.
So tell me about lesser zero, less, what is it? Less than zero?
Line Zero,
Line
yeah.
zero. Sorry. Line zero. I apologize. I apologize. So what's line zero?
So Line Zero started actually as a employee experience organization. So it's so ProServe IT is the other company. We partner with Microsoft and we do traditional technology service, which is now morphed into much more than traditional, into working on AI and business intelligence, cybersecurity, that type of thing. We had an opportunity through a relationship with a gentleman at Meta, and they had Facebook at that time before they became Meta.
Right.
Meta had a product called Workplace from Facebook, and effectively it was like taking public Facebook but making it private and specific for a business.
Okay.
And the idea being it would help solve communication. And so we began Line Zero to actually partner with Meta to go to market and bring this solution to typically multinational organizations. So the majority of our customers on Line Zero are multinational because we try to help them with enterprise communication. And the more offices you have, the more time zones that you sit in, the more languages that you speak from a business perspective, the more you actually struggle with communicating to all of your employees effectively, helping them all beat to the same drum, helping them all understand what values are, and also ensuring that what the culture or the vibe you feel when you come into an office. How do you make sure the San Diego office has the same culture as the one in Toronto, is the same one that's in France, is the same one that's in Tokyo? That's really hard to do.
That is a challenge.
And
Yeah.
and so yeah, that was a problem that we sought out to help solve in partnership with Meta, is to help these large businesses both streamline communications wall to wall so that all employees have a means to communicate and a voice to be heard,
Mhm.
as well as to try and digitize culture to an extent and allow people to come in and get a sense for, what is this company all about? What is the feeling I get, but digitally?
Yeah, and that's never been more important. Culture has never been more important than it is today. So it sounds like what you're doing with Meta is you're helping them to create a community inside the company.
Totally. Yeah. And, yes, there's going to be silly cat picture groups that will pop up that are non-productive related, but that's all part of
Culture.
culture and community,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah,
that goes side and side with like productive groups, things that are all about fulfilling the service or doing whatever it is that you do from a business perspective, and helping facilitate communication tied to that purpose. So yeah,
But it's all in one
it's both.
spot.
100%.
Yeah, that's really
100%.
smart.
Yeah, and I'll say we're quite fortunate that the success rate for this is very high.
Yeah.
It's unlike most other technologies I think that I've been a part of in my career anyways, where adoption and how people embrace change when new technology comes out isn't always, you can't take that for granted, right?
Yeah.
People aren't just, because you build it or because you give them something doesn't mean they're going to use it or be successful at it.
That's true.
But we've been very fortunate that nearly 100% of the time when we roll this out at companies, we have a market impact into, like I said, how they communicate with their teams, how they communicate with each other, and how they can establish a sense of culture.
So it's an assimilation thing.
Yeah, there's a network effect
Yeah.
that happens right when enough people use the technology. It kind of creates that FOMO, the fear of missing out, to a certain extent from all of the other employees. And as soon as you get both kind of top down, like endorsement, and this is how broadcast communication is going to happen via this channel, maybe town halls, et cetera, going to be done through here, but also bottom up, right? How do we elicit feedback from our staff? How do we make sure that they have a voice and they know that we're listening? And so it gives an opportunity. So if you're in a logistics business and you've got a forklift operator, right? And that forklift operator posts a comment or a feedback or a suggestion, and that comment or that post gets a like or a comment from the CEO, there's no way that person would have any other mechanism to actually have direct, like to know that they've actually been heard by the CEO of a large business. Wouldn't happen. So it's quite magical.
Yeah, tell me that's not validation, right?
Totally.
And that validation creates cohesiveness.
Yeah, and alignment.
Yeah, and man, you're the perfect guy to do it too. Look at how long you were with ProServe, right? Now you own ProServe. I mean, you're the perfect guy to do this line zero. I mean, I love this. This is, no, I'm not joking. Look at your history, right? Your history, literally your life story has basically prepared you to do this.
It's an interesting way to look at things.
Dude, it's awesome. Because here's the thing. You're all about culture. Culture is what kept you at ProServe.
That's true. Yep.
You with me?
Yep.
So now you're taking that same culture that helped to retain you and gave you a once in a lifetime type opportunity, right? You're helping to take that and replicate it for other companies. This is brilliant.
I don't know that I've ever looked at it through that lens before. And like I said, I've been extremely fortunate. I feel fortunate. I don't know a better word for that than to describe kind of how and where I arrived at. But
You're blessed,
I believe in what we do. I really do. I think that we make an impact. Yeah.
But you've earned it. You know what I mean? So it's not.
I hope so.
It's not, well, it's not something, this isn't something that's just given to you, right? It's something you went out and earned, right?
Yep.
But the thing about it is, part of that earning process has prepared you to do line zero. That's why line zero is taking off, because you understand culture better than just about anybody else on the planet because of the history that you have with ProServe.
I think that's part of it, perhaps. And honestly, I think, again, that the team that we have is amazing. And the culture that we've been able to build around performance, accountability, and kind of just rapid change. Yeah, I think it's less me and more the team that we've kind of assembled, because we've got quite a few heavy hitters.
Well, somebody has to lead it, bud. Somebody has to lead it, and you're in the right position to do it. Is there anything else that you'd like to cover? Is there anything else you're working on for today and or tomorrow?
Well, I think the big, so speaking about line zero, it's quite interesting because we kind of have this advent of a couple things that are going on. So AI, as you may have heard, is a thing now, and there's lots of conversations going around AI. And spatial computing, i.e. mixed reality, i.e. Apple with their Vision Pro, kind of rising to prominence in the last month. And we've, for the last I'll say year to 2 years, we've also begin going on a journey with Line Zero with Meta all around mixed reality and really kind of leaning into what immersive technology can do and how it can influence business and how it can drive, not just collaboration, but learning, etc. And so we find ourselves again at an interesting inflection point where we're partnering with Meta to help people think differently about, not just the vision goggles and
Right.
how silly people look and et cetera, but what the convergence of AI with this type of immersive technology will mean, because we're in a situation where glasses, obviously form factor being an issue now, but we all know that miniaturization will happen over time. But the form factor is actually the optimal, you can consider it the optimal way to give AI the ability to see what you see and hear what you hear.
Right.
And we're just beginning that, aggregation or integration of the AI mixed reality journey. And so I'm super fascinated about what's to come. I'm excited for that next step of the Line Zero journey and looking at that convergence of mixed reality and AI and how we're going to be talking, maybe a year or 2 years from now, we're going to be doing this in mixed reality.
Yeah. We'll have to have you back to do that. I want to get us a pair of those goggles. What do you think of them?
They're remarkable. And I think it's hard to convey to someone, I can't tell you, say, oh, it's amazing. You have to actually put it on to be able to. So I'll give you an example. I went on a roller coaster ride in VR and I got vertigo.
Yeah.
Because that's how in the moment you are, your brain is convinced that you're there. And so anything that can actually convince your brain to experience vertigo when you're just sitting on your chair in your office, that's pretty remarkable.
Pretty awesome, dude. That's pretty awesome. I can't wait to try those on. I actually have a friend that works at Apple, and I've got to get hooked up. So
you need to,
The problem is I'm going to want to buy them, right? And it's like, right? And I've already been told it's not in the budget, right? So
it's a business expense.
So, it's
R&D.
exactly, right? Business expense. Yeah,
that's right.
All right. Well, thank you, Jaime McMahon. Thank you so much for being our guest on the Mike Litton Experience. I have had a blast, and I cannot thank you enough for taking time out of your schedule to be with us.
No, I appreciate the invite, and it's been awesome. You've asked me questions I've never even considered before, and I'm leaving here thinking things differently. So I appreciate the time as well.
That's awesome, buddy. We'd love to have you back. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jaime. We hope you enjoyed another episode of the Mike Litton Experience. If you did, do us a favor, smash that subscribe button, tell your friends, family, and coworkers about our program, and wherever you get your podcasts, please leave us a rating. It helps us to connect with quality people just like you.
And that's a wrap. Another episode of the Mike Litton Experience in the books. Reach out to Mike on Instagram at Litton Realty. Want to meet with Mike? Check out calendly.com/Rio760.